David. Okay. So my name is Olcay, and I am the technical secretariat of Nyéléni Europe and Central Asia Food Sovereignty Network. Together, we are doing this technical secretariat task with my colleague Madina, who is from Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek, and I am based in Brussels and work for European Coordination via Campesina as policy officer. And today we are having our sixth thematic discussion webinar of Nyéléni ECA, Europe and Central Asia Food Sovereignty Network. And this is the July edition. And the title of the webinar is Entry of the Far Right into the Agricultural Sector, Right-Wing Agrarian Populisms. And we are doing these webinars. We are organizing, Nyéléni ECA is organizing these webinars in order to advance its goals, because we would like to foster collaboration. We would like to foster collaboration and identify joint actions after all those webinars. And these dialogues for us serve as platforms for exchanging knowledge, sharing best practices, and aligning strategies among diverse actors committed to food sovereignty and sustainable agriculture, to agroecology. And these webinars also supported by Reboot Food project. It is a co-funded project by European Union. So this is the sixth one, and I would like to welcome all of you. And I would like to leave the floor to David to start the exciting exchange. Thank you so much. David.
Muchas gracias, Olcay. Yo voy a hablar en español. Y nada, simplemente agradecer a la Coordinadora Europea de la Vía Campesina por este espacio y a Olcay y a Madina por el apoyo técnico y por facilitar que este webinario se esté dando. Yo soy David Gallar, soy miembro del Instituto de Sociología y Estudios Campesinos, del ISEC, de la Universidad de Córdoba, y también miembro del Movimiento por la Soberanía Alimentaria en España. Ahora mismo una de las plataformas que tenemos en España es Nos Plantamos, que trata de articular diferentes actores desde el sector agrario hasta ONGs de la soberanía alimentaria. Pues estamos en el movimiento ecologista, el Juventud por el Clima, es decir, distintos actores y distintas visiones sobre, bueno, una visión alternativa del mundo rural y del sector agrario hacia la agroecología y la soberanía alimentaria. Y en ese diagnóstico, tanto en el Estado español como a nivel internacional, como estuvimos en las distintas reuniones del proceso Nyéléni que estamos viendo, y es una realidad, veíamos que la entrada de la extrema derecha en el sector agrario es un hecho y tenemos que abordarlo y tenemos que entender qué está pasando. Y nos falta información sobre cuáles son las dinámicas que, aunque tenemos una visión general sobre qué ocurre en la extrema derecha, podríamos hablar de fascismo, podríamos hablar de populismo agrario, podríamos hablar de extrema derecha. Este no es un debate académico y por eso no hemos buscado ni pretendemos hacer una introducción académica ni teórica sobre los distintos conceptos que podrían aplicar sobre fascismo 2.0, sobre populismo, fascismos agrarios, ni es una visión histórica, no es nada teórico, sino que queremos conocer precisamente esas realidades en distintos territorios y en 3 países, podrían haber sido otros 3 y esperemos que podamos hacer otros 3, otro webinario con otros 3 países, con realidades particulares, pero en los cuales la extrema derecha está entrando de una manera muy fuerte en el sector agrario porque a ellos les interesa utilizar y aprovechar cualquier malestar. Y el campo y el sector agrario está muy mal. Eso es una realidad. Ahí no vamos a hacer el diagnóstico ahora mismo, pero está muy mal. Entonces, para ello, queríamos hacer este webinario y entender un poco, bueno, pues compartir. Evidentemente, con el poco tiempo que tenemos, no podremos resolver grandísimas cosas, pero sí sentirnos más cercanos y conocer un poco qué está pasando en los territorios. Y por ese lado también entender cuál es el proceso bueno, cómo están aprovechando esos malestares y cómo están aprovechándose también o intentando apropiarse de conceptos como soberanía alimentaria también, ¿no? Incluso agroecología a veces. Así que ese sería un poco el sentido de este webinario y entender cuáles son las resistencias y las articulaciones. Es decir, cuando la extrema derecha viene tan fuerte con tanques, como si, perdón, con tractores como si fuesen tanques, nosotras qué estamos haciendo, ¿no? Entonces, para eso contamos con la presencia de tres compas de tres países. Espero decirlo bien. El de España es más fácil porque iba a estar Antonio Paniza y está Toño Romé aquí. Antonio se ha conectado del colectivo Malas Hierbas de Zaragoza, un colectivo que surge precisamente un poco al calor, y nunca mejor dicho, al calor de estas tractoradas y movimiento de extrema derecha en el sector agrario. Entonces, como a ellos les pilló de frente y es uno de los motivos por los que surge este colectivo, por eso los hemos invitado. Por otro lado, tenemos desde Países Bajos a Leonardo van der Berg, de Toekomsboren, otra organización muy potente en su país y que está haciendo un poco ese equilibrio entre el sector agroecológico y las grandes tractoradas y el clima de tensión política y de movilización del sector agroindustrial y de los grandes agricultores y ganaderos en el país. Y por otro lado tenemos a Claudia Echebelbein. Claudia, lo vamos a dejar en Claudia, de ABL, también con un contexto en Alemania bien difícil con el crecimiento de la extrema derecha o del neofascismo directamente a nivel político y saber cómo eso que vemos en los periódicos de que la AfD está entrando muy fuerte, pues cómo aterriza eso en el sector agrario y en el medio rural. Así que yo por mi parte nada más, simplemente les voy a dar el paso, la organización del webinario va a ser, empezará Leonardo, luego estará Claudia y luego estará Toño. Cada uno tiene 20 minutos para responder a algunas preguntas, una visión general de cómo está la situación en sus territorios y en sus países. Así que serán 20 minutos, 20 minutos y 20 minutos. Y luego tendremos un debate entre ellos y con las personas que estáis en el público. Si alguien tiene alguna cuestión, alguna sugerencia, por supuesto, levanta la mano o mejor que lo ponga en el chat para tratar de dar respuesta o entender cuáles son las preguntas. Así que por mi parte, nada más que daros las gracias a las tres ponentes, de nuevo a Madina, Olja y a FBC y a las intérpretes. Muchas gracias porque si no, no sería posible. Y un saludo a las caras conocidas y desconocidas que estáis en el webinario. Así que, Leonardo, Leo, cuando quieras es tu tiempo.
Okay.
Leo tenía una presentación que habíamos mandado. Si la podéis compartir, por favor, Jay.
Okay, thank you very much. I will speak in English. Thank you very much, David, also for organizing this webinar and everybody else that was involved in organizing. I think this is a very important topic. So I'm Leonardo van den Berg. I have a farm in the municipality of Ede, which is a municipality in the middle of the Netherlands. And there I run a CSA farm, so we have members, we have about 200 members, and they have a year subscription, and we feed these families through very direct selling. I had some images of the farm, which is in the presentation, yeah. So this is the farm. We do also a lot of experiments. A lot of people come there also because the consumers harvest themselves, and it's a very nice model because the consumers pay on a very yearly
Leo,
basis.
please, could you speak louder, a little bit louder?
Yeah, maybe the microphone is a bit far. Okay. So
Thank
we
you.
pay. It's a very nice. Can you hear better now? Still not. This better? Okay, so I took the mic out. Okay. So as I was saying, it's a very nice farm where a lot of community members, they come to harvest the product themselves. And it's also a very nice model for us because we are two farmers running it. It's also a very nice model for us because the consumers pay on a yearly basis. And so we don't have so much risk and we have a relatively stable income. But next to this work on the farm, I'm also active for Toekomstboeren, which is the Dutch organization of many small-scale agroecological farmers, and also active in the coordinating committee of ECVC, and also in the coordinating committee of La Via Campesina International. And for this presentation, actually, I mainly wanted to talk about the context in the Netherlands, but I also wanted to touch on the protests that we had in Brussels, because this also, the farmers' protests that we had in Brussels, because this also yeah, very much influenced the way that we are organizing now. So when we talk about the emergence of the far right in Dutch agriculture, I think we have to go back to the farmer protests that occurred there in 2019, right? And I think this was one of the first protests after a wave of protests that we had in the entire Europe. But to understand these protests, also we have to go back a little bit into history because the Netherlands, I think, is one of the most industrialized has one of the most industrial agriculture countries in the world. Already starting after the Second World War, there was programs promoting what they call ruilverkaveling, which is it's kind of forcing farmers to exchange land so that they could aggregate into larger pieces of land, because larger pieces of land are easier to mechanize, but also programs to intensify, to use more of these improved purchased varieties, but also a very strong promotion of neoliberalism, including the privatization of land, the commoditization of food, but also deregulation, right? And becoming more and more part of international markets, well, all these kind of things. And this really created an environment that is very favorable for large corporations. So we have a lot of corporations that grew in this period, right, including retailers and supermarkets, but also producers of inputs, right? Large Dutch producers, but also international producers that are really dominant here. And they really created a situation of dependency. A lot of the farmers here are very strongly dependent on the chemical fertilizers, on seeds, on pesticides, but also on what supermarkets are willing to give them for the prices. And this has become a big problem, right? Because in a context where we see that actually the prices of many of the inputs are increasing, but also where the price that farmers receive for food is decreasing, this is really putting a lot of pressure on farmers to produce more and more, creating, of course, environmental impact, right? And in response to this negative environmental impact of agriculture, the government puts up a lot of strict regulations, right? Putting even more burden on farmers. And this actually created a situation in which farmers have been in now some time, in which they're actually completely stuck. And one of the problems, of the environmental problems that was being caused by agriculture in the Netherlands is that of nitrogen deposition. So the agriculture here, particularly the more intensive forms of agriculture, they emit a lot of nitrogen, and when this deposits on the soil, it really leads to a reduction of biodiversity. A lot of more natural plants cannot grow in it, right? So this is having a huge impact on biodiversity, and as a response, actually in 2019, we started to have policies to reduce the use of nitrogen. And this started more with regulations, which were restricting the activities of farmer. But later we also had more strict rules that even would force farmers to move from their land, or could even force farmers to sell their land if they were too intensive, if they were emitting too much nitrogen. And this is actually one of the main causes that triggered the farmers' protests here. And in the slides, you see some of the images of the protests that came up. And initially, these protests they had no real political color, right? It was mainly actually a kind more of an opposition to the policies, to the nitrogen policies, right? Farmers, they felt threatened, right? And so they went and took the streets. But later, actually, agro-industry also started to support these protests. And I think that the agro-industry was a bit scared, right? Because they knew that actually they were one of the root causes of the nitrogen crisis, and they were scared that that either the policies would turn against them, or that maybe the farmers' protests would turn against them. And so what they did is they started to support the protests, and this it was mainly for financial support, and this enabled actually the protests to become actually quite big. And in the same period, we also see that a new party was formed, and this party was called the BBB. They also called it the Farmers' Party, and this party was really against the nitrogen policy, right? But also they were against rules. They were in favor of less rules for agriculture in general, less rules for farmers. But also they thought, well, we should pay less attention to the environment. We should also have less power to the city. The countryside should have more voice, right? And this point actually is one that is actually maybe not even a bad point. But in many of the other points, they started to align also more to the right. And they were very successful, and it was actually a big surprise to all of us because in 2023 we had the provincial elections, and the BBB became the largest party in all of the 12 provinces in the Netherlands. But the BBB was not the only party that actually was able to profit, right, or co-opt the protest, but also we have the PVV, right, which is a more extreme right, really fascist party. They were also able to benefit. They started to profile themselves as being a party for the farmers, for the common people. They started also to deny that nitrogen was a problem, or that even agriculture was causing any problems at all, right? And like all extreme right parties, they were of course blaming the left and blaming migrants, etc., for all the problems that we have. And in 2024 we had the national elections, and the PVV, well, they proved to be quite successful, right? They became the largest party, and this led to the formation of an extreme right government together with the BBB, but also with a liberal party and a Christian party. Actually, an extreme right government that we had in the Netherlands. We still have it today, but a couple of weeks ago, actually, well, the government fell, and so we are now waiting for actually new elections, which will take place after the summer. But this is a little bit about the story of how the extreme right then was able to enter agriculture in the Netherlands and gain a lot of popularity among farmers. So now we move more to the maybe more how, okay, what is now being done in terms of resistance. I think one of the things that we really learned from the Dutch experience is that we really have to avoid this type of protest to be captured by the extreme right, right? Because this is really what happened there, right? It's due to this protest actually that really helped the extreme right become one of the largest party, and it is by penetrating into this protest that actually the extreme right also was able to get a lot of sympathy within the farming population. But at the time in the Netherlands, it was actually one of the first yeah, in the Netherlands it was one of the first of these protests. So we, as more progressive farmers organizations, we didn't really know exactly what to do, right? Because on the one hand, we really supported this idea that the way that agriculture is, how things are going on right now, it has to change. But the direction that we propose is quite different, right? But what we learned from this experience, and when the elections came up in Belgium, but also in the European elections in 2024, right before the elections, we thought, okay, we within ECVC also we started to discuss, okay, we have to avoid this from happening here in Belgium and with the European elections, right? So as ECVC, we organized also together with Fugea, right, the Belgian member of La Via Campesina. We organized also a series of protests last year in Brussels, right? You can see the pictures in the slides. And there we were really being able to make a more of a sound for food sovereignty, but not only, but also we really tried to make a sound that would also connect to different types of farmers, right? Not only the small scale farmers, but also the more medium scale farmers. And we did this also by stressing certain topics, including fair income was a topic that we really put forward, right? And this really, we proposed at the European level that it should become illegal. It should not be allowed for people to sell food for below the costs of production. But we also promoted really this idea of more market regulation, right? Also to reform the CAP, to focus more on regulation, the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, so that it focuses more on regulation rather than giving subsidies. And that subsidies should not only go to large farmers, but also mainly be used to support the transition towards agroecology. But also we give this message really of stopping free trade agreements, because it's leading to unfair competition for producers here, but also for producers in the global south, right? So there's strong action also against the EU-Mercosur agreement. We actually launched a campaign quite recently. I think we opened it last week, right? Called Farmers Unite, where we're also collaborating with different farmers organizations, yeah, in order to stop the EU-Mercosur agreement. So these protests, I think in Brussels, the results were a bit mixed, right? So on the one hand, yeah, what we see within the European Commission is that there still is a dismantling of the environmental regulations. And we see also that yeah, there is a shift towards the right there. Also in what von der Leyen is doing. But also we were able to put some of the issues on the table, right? The issue of fair income, of generational renewal, and we also gained some entry points to do more work within the EU. All right, so this was Europe. But in the Netherlands, we also learned a lot from this, right? We learned also from the experience of ECVC, and now we are starting also to move towards more broadening our base, right? Because we, as Toekomstboeren, we are mainly an organization of small-scale farmers, but we have now formed also alliances, and joining on the one hand other more agroecological farmers, but also alliances also to reach more medium and larger scale farmers through the use of these topics of fair income and also free trade agreements to, in this way, also have a stronger voice. I think I will end here. So thank you.
Muchas gracias, Leo. 14 minutos, perfecto, nos dejará tiempo para poder intercambiar un poco y compartir y debatir un poco entre ustedes y con el público, así que muchas gracias, Leo. Claudia, es tu tiempo. Lo mismo si 15 minutos para poder debatir un poco más y si queréis dialogar un poco. Así que muchísimas gracias.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, for inviting us for doing this webinar. As Leo said before, I think it's a very, very important topic that we are all facing throughout Europe, in our organizations, in sometimes different, or sometimes look a bit different in the countries, but oh, sorry, I was asked if I wanted to switch to Netherlands to speak. Okay. But I can connect to what Leo said in terms of how the development in the country happened. In Germany, you often say when you want to see how things go worse in agriculture, you look to the Netherlands in terms of agro-industrial developments that had taken place over the years, and also in terms of the nitrogen problem. We do have also a nitrogen problem. And we also had protests in 2019, but they were all the tractors going out there and protesting looked to the Netherlands and said, when we look there, we see how things will develop when we, when we just go on as we're doing so far. But you would think that that would bring the politics to do things differently, but it wasn't. The national politics kept or stuck to the terms they developed before, and never really changed until we had the election before our last federal election. The last federal election was in November, and we had an election 4 years before that, and had a coalition of Green and Social Democrats and Liberals. And that fell into a time where we had the Fridays for Future protests, Greta Thunberg, a big movement within the youth throughout Europe. We had the Green Deal in Brussels. We had climate change as a topic, as a sort of a topic to be targeted by politicians, was sort of the mainstream, or it wasn't the mainstream. We always thought it was the mainstream, but it wasn't. But it was sort of a loud voice that was heard, and that threatened farmers like it did in the Netherlands. And we had a lot of protests there as well, because it sort of questioned not only the way they farmed, but also for a lot of people, it questioned the way of life in the countryside. And I think that was something that sort of fueled these protests even more. And you had a lot of farmers protests, but you had also a lot of sympathy in the rural communities for those farmers protests. And the same happened then in Germany, and I think in Europe there were protests as well, but in 2023, and it was sparked in Germany by the Green and Liberal and Social Democratic national government, when they had a finance problem, and they wanted to cut off the diesel refund for the farming community. When you're a farmer, you get back money for your diesel you use, and they wanted to cut back that refund, and that set really a spark within the farming community. And we always said it was the last drop that brought the not the bottle, but the barrel to overflow. And almost all the farmers could unite behind that protest against. And we as the ABL, we had a lot of discussions what we should do. A lot of our members said, we have to go out and protest as well. This is not fair. And this is, we need to do something about it. And we were really, it was really hard for us to say, no, we're not going to these protests because there's this one point, it's an subsidy for diesel, for fossil fuels. This is, in terms of climate change, is that the worst thing we could do, and we cannot go out and protest for that. And also we at that point said, and we see in these protests a lot of other arguments mixed in, which are coming from the right wing, from right wing organizations and from right wing ideas. And we don't have a farmers' party formed, like you said, Leo, in the Netherlands, but we even longer already have this, by now, extremistic right-wing AfD, David, you mentioned, which has not any agricultural policy topics in there, or even the one topic they have is no subsidies from Brussels anymore, which is, for a lot of farmers, a very bad politics, because of a lot of German farmers and a lot of members of the ABL are dependent on subsidies from Brussels. So when they actually elect the AfD, they elect them against their own it's not good for them when they elect them. But you have this phenomenon that people tend to elect far-right parties against their own interests in other areas as well, but also within the farmers. And so in the last federal election, the AfD became the strongest opposition party by now. We have a government out of conservatives and social democrats by now, and the main opposition party in the parliament is the AfD, are the extremist right. So we have a totally different parliamentary not system, but it feels totally different than in years before. The AfD has main parts in political in places where decisions are taken and topics are discussed, and they bring in their anti-democratic views in all kinds of areas. And yeah, the question how to cope with that for us as the ABL, but also for the politics tries to cope with that. In the conservatives try to get closer to ABL topics, to right-wing topics. They try to catch the farmers by putting away all ideas of climate protection doesn't play any role anymore in politics. Agricultural policies don't play as much as a role in federal politics as well. I mean, everybody in Germany right now talks about weapons and buying weapons and making our army better, and this is the main topic. And the other main topic in the federal election was migrants and keeping migrants out of our borders. And so agriculture didn't play any role, but the conservatives tried to catch the farmers by telling them, okay, with us, we are taking down all the ecological burdens they were on you. And in terms of nitrogen, what you mentioned, Leo, the nitrogen problem, we right now had a decision that farmers no longer have to do an input-output by balancing for their individual farm. So you can no longer identify who's a polluter and who does it good. The topic for the ABL always was to say most of the farmers act that not a lot nitrogen goes into the groundwater, but there are few in the intensified areas, in the agro-industrial areas with a lot of animals, a lot of pigs. They are the ones who have problematic. They do it in a problematic way and cause a lot of our nitrogen problems. And we need a system that identifies the individual polluter and helps him, not puts so much on him to change it, but to help him to find a way out of that. And so this was now taken away by the politics, this individual balance. And now we have a general system of there are some areas where all the farmers in this area are not allowed to or have to reduce their nitrogen 20%. And it's independent. No, it doesn't matter if how they actually work on their farm. And so the main the Bauernverband, which is the big interest group of the farmers in Germany, they always wanted a general system like this to cover up or to get all together, all the farmers together on that topic. Everybody's angry on that because it's not fair. But you get all the ones who are actually doing good to cover up the some who are farming in an industrial way and doing it not good. So this is one main topic that we had right now, and which is also a point where right wings say, yeah, just leave it all these environmental stuff. We don't need that. The farmers are doing good as they are doing. We don't need any restrictions. That's their main topic. And yeah, this is on the political level. And then there's another level I just mentioned very briefly, but it's something that's even growing. We have in remote countrysides, like where I'm from. I didn't say where I'm from. I'm from the north of Germany, and we are in a very remote countryside with not much animals, but a lot of potato growing and arable land, and it's not really good land. So you have quite big farms, and in our region, we faced already like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, a movement of right-wing settlements. There's like one family coming to your village when there's a farm to be sold, and they buy the farm, and then they try to get others in the region as well, and they farm in an agroecological way. They talk about food sovereignty. They have a lot of their own produce. They product. They use in their families. The families are big, a lot of kids, and they do it, yeah, as I said, in an agroecological way. And it's not so easy for us as we have an ecological farm to actually tell people what is the difference between, it's something in between green and brown, by the terms of the colors, since the right wing are the brown, and so you have a green-brown mixture next to the green ecologicals would have a different political view. And so these worked in a rather quiet way in the villages and in the communities. And by now it starts that they speak out louder. You have them now in municipality politic places, but you also have them in the executive board for the kindergarten or for the schools, and you know they infiltrate the rural communities where they are, and that's a problem because they take responsibility for the youth or for and it's a real tricky development that is taking place, and especially in the very remote areas in East Germany, in the former East German states. It's even worse because there you have a lot of people leave the rural areas and move to the cities or move somewhere else. And now maybe the last point, I think, to actually deal with the problematic of far rights, the ABL is for now more than 20 years a member of the Wir haben es satt community, which is a lot of organizations together, NGOs together, from the consumer area, from the environmental area, from countries from the south, and we all together organize a demonstration every year in January. There's the big agricultural fair in Berlin, the Grüne Woche, and there are a lot of politicians coming, and always in that time we organize a big demonstration with farmers, with tractors, but also with a lot of people walking there and being around sort of the farmers. And it's a society movement of farmers, consumers, environmentalists, third world activists, all together, and bringing in their view on politics and talking to each other actually, and making a totally different picture than the big farmers' protest, where you would always have big machinery and very few people. And here you have a lot of people, it's very colorful, and you have farmers in the middle of society. And I think that's, at least for Germany, it's a very important part, as farmers often feel that they're not in the middle of society. They're on the edge in the countryside, and they are sort of left out by others. And you have to get them back in the middle of society to get them away from right ideas. I think that could be one solution. Yeah, maybe I stop here. I think I was too long already.
No, eso fue perfecto, Claudia, de tiempo, y tocaste temas muy interesantes. Antes de dar paso a Toño, bueno, comentar alguna cosita. Es verdad que han salido algunos temas. Estáis hablando a nivel tanto Leo como tú.
Excuse me. I was hearing two English interpretation, Dani and Carla. Can you sort it out? Thank you.
Ajá. ¿Voy allá? Voy allá. No, decía que tanto Leonardo como Claudia habéis hablado a nivel político más amplio, a una escala como más amplia, y era interesante, queríamos saberlo también. Nos interesaba también luego para el debate, sí me gustaría que hicieseis una ronda después de cómo lo estáis viviendo en vuestros pueblos y en vuestras cooperativas y en vuestro entorno más próximo, porque la extrema derecha está haciendo un esfuerzo muy fuerte de entrada en las políticas públicas, pero fundamentalmente en la vida cotidiana, es decir, en redes sociales, en los símbolos, en ocupar los espacios más cotidianos, basados en esta lógica más autoritaria, en aprovechar los malestares Entonces, la política pública sí está clara, hay una estrategia muy clara de trabajo en políticas públicas, pero me parece que también es una estrategia muy clara el ocupar los espacios cotidianos. Y por ahí quería preguntar, un poco hacer un poco encaje antes de que entre Toño, si hay tractores de izquierdas, ¿no? Porque hubo uno de los debates, decía Claudia, ¿salir o no salir en las movilizaciones pidiendo diésel? Claro, para pedir diésel no se sale, pero a lo mejor sí era necesario salir para decir que el sector agrario necesita otra cosa, ¿no? Son debates interesantes que en el Estado español hemos tenido, son potentes. Entonces, y algunas entry points, algunos puntos de entrada que planteaba Leo, el tema de los precios justos, los tratados de libre comercio y las alianzas con la mediana escala. Salían algunos temas, simplemente los lanzo un poquitín, dejo que Toño cuente para que luego hagamos una pequeña rondita, como veis. Como no habéis gastado todo el tiempo, es magnífico poder hacer una rondita de vosotras tres y luego pasamos al resto de preguntas para que lo tengáis en mente. ¿Ok? Así que mientras llega la traducción, Toño, tu tiempo. Muchas gracias.
¿Tenemos traducción ya o espero?
Dale ahí. A ver. A ver. ¿Tenemos ya interpretación para español a inglés?
Yes, yes, Tonio can speak in Spanish.
Cole.
Vale.
Gracias.
Bueno, pues muy buenos días. Gracias a FBC, gracias a David, gracias a Madaina, gracias a Olday por invitarnos a Malas Hierbas hoy aquí. Bueno, yo soy Toño Romés, soy agricultor en un pueblo de la provincia de Zaragoza. Os comento porque sobre todo yo voy a hablar desde un punto de vista de nuestra región, de la región de Aragón, que es donde, bueno, pues nuestro colectivo Malas Hierbas ha tenido su nacimiento. Malas Hierbas está en una fase muy inicial, a veces nos cuesta llamarnos colectivo, pero sí que tiene todo que ver con estos procesos de la introducción de la ultraderecha, de las movilizaciones que hubo sobre todo aquí en España y especialmente en Aragón en 2024 y 2025. Y bueno, pues el colectivo Malas Hierbas nace de un grupo de productores, todos pertenecientes al paraguas de CBC, de COAG, de WAGA, que veíamos que, bueno, que lo que estaba pasando en el sector, lo que estaba pasando en el territorio, en nuestros pueblos, no era normal y pues somos un grupo que éramos bastante activos en la vida sindical, en la vida agraria de nuestro territorio y bueno, se generó un pequeño grupo de WhatsApp donde empezamos a debatir qué era lo que estaba pasando y qué soluciones le podíamos dar. Eh, Como no encontramos un foro donde pudiésemos debatir esto, lo que hicimos fue pues, que nuestro grupo de WhatsApp, nuestro pequeño grupo de WhatsApp, avanzase y bueno, pues se crease un foro donde nosotros pudiésemos debatir y buscar posibles soluciones a toda la introducción de estos discursos ultraderechistas neoliberales que estábamos viendo y sobre todo el por qué agricultores normales, agricultores como nosotros, estaban comprando este discurso como propio sin ver la realidad que nosotros creemos que es del problema y sin hacer frente a los problemas reales. ¿Vale? Sí que es verdad que creemos que aquí en España el problema de la incursión de la ultraderecha no es un problema meramente del sector agrario, sino que es un problema de todo el Estado, de todos los sectores, de toda la sociedad. Y también creemos que viene dado pues, por bueno, pues esta sociedad capitalista que tenemos desde hace muchas décadas, que al final pues, va avanzando, va penetrando en la sociedad y nos trae las cosas que nos trae. Al final vivimos en la era del individualismo, de la inmediatez y gracias, entre comillas, a pues, todos los medios de comunicación que tenemos ahora, redes sociales, es muy fácil difundir noticias sin base, discursos que no tienen absolutamente ningún recorrido, pero que de lo populistas que son, hay mucha gente que, sin saber qué problemas está teniendo pues, en su día a día en el campo, en su explotación, los compran. Y estoy ahora mismo, por ejemplo, pensando en la Agenda 2030, que ha sido seguramente el foco más señalado en los últimos años en el campo español, o como mayor problema que tiene el sector. Y el 99% de la gente que señala la abolición de la Agenda 2030 ni se la ha leído ni sabe de qué va. Pero como hay 4 personas en redes sociales señalando cuáles son que la Agenda 2030 es el problema que nos está trayendo el que no podamos producir más barato y que no se nos pague lo que se nos tiene que pagar por los productos, pues lo compran y eso se reproduce. Por eso creemos desde Malas Hierbas que era muy importante que todo ese trabajo que ya está hecho, sobre todo, bueno, estamos hablando de, y es lo primero que he nombrado, el paraguas de CBC, el paraguas de COAG, hay trabajo hecho, muy bien hecho desde hace muchísimos años. Podemos hablar de los estudios de la uberización del campo, todo el trabajo que se ha hecho con Mercosur, podría hablar y no acabar nunca, pero que no somos capaces de que el agricultor de a pie compre ese discurso. Y al final creemos que el no saber transmitir los problemas reales que tiene el agricultor, y no quiero entrar en los problemas reales porque todos los que estamos aquí coincidimos en cuáles son los problemas reales que tenemos en el sector. No somos capaces de hacerlos llegar a los propios agricultores y lo que me parece todavía más importante que es a la sociedad. Porque cuando hemos visto estas movilizaciones en el año 24, en el año 25, gente que no tiene nada que ver con el sector, te viene, te pregunta y te pregunta totalmente lo que están diciendo estos señores y no te preguntan realmente qué podemos hacer para que no nos invadan de productos de terceros países en los cuales se está explotando a personas, se están utilizando unos productos fitosanitarios que aquí están prohibidos desde hace muchos años, etcétera, etcétera. Todo esto lo señalo tan claramente porque en España, igual que en Europa, hablamos de movilizaciones desde hace, bueno, de toda la vida. De hecho, el surgimiento de los sindicatos agrarios en España viene del levantamiento del campo, de la guerra del maíz, de la guerra del tomate, etcétera. Pero desde 2018, 2019, igual que en toda Europa, como el sector cada vez va peor y va peor por las políticas neoliberales, por las políticas capitalistas, venimos movilizándonos continuamente. En 2018 no hay ningún problema en las movilizaciones, ni en 2019 ni en 2020, porque son las organizaciones agrarias quienes lideran estos procesos, en especial COAG y WAGA, liderando con un discurso claro y que los agricultores trasladan a suyo y lo entienden porque se les explica bien y entienden el por qué nos estamos movilizando. Pero sí que es verdad que a raíz del COVID, todos sabemos lo que ha pasado en el COVID con redes sociales, de repente aparecen nuevos protagonistas que se erigen como representantes del campo y estos empiezan a introducir mensajes populistas que la gente compra y que no somos capaces por parte de los agricultores activos sindicalmente de contrarrestar y eso al final cala en la sociedad. Las movilizaciones del 24 y del 25, que son las que yo creo que realmente hacen mal en España y en Aragón, entre comillas, porque luego matizaré que tampoco creo que hayan hecho tanto mal. Vienen arrastradas por las movilizaciones que hay en Francia. Y desde aquí, aun teniendo muchos motivos por movilizarnos, hablabais antes de se sale a movilizarnos por los motivos que están hablando el resto de países europeos, no se sale a movilizarnos. ¿Qué pasa? Que al no salir a movilizarnos, siendo que se estaba levantando toda Europa, pues al final empiezan de una manera espontánea a quedarse en grupos de WhatsApp. La verdad es que la forma, yo todavía sigo alucinando de cómo se puede crear una estructura de grupos de WhatsApp de la forma que se creó en España, sobre todo en Aragón, de una forma totalmente sin controlar, porque sí que es verdad que en zonas que había líderes de extrema derecha, líderes de Vox, que intentaron liderar esto, pero sí que es verdad que la mayoría de los territorios, la gente que lo empuja es gente joven, gente que está en proceso de llevar la explotación a donde el capital nos pide, que es a crecer, a hacer grandes inversiones, a hacer granjas de porcino para la integración de las grandes multinacionales españolas del porcino. Y son estas personas aleatoriamente las que empiezan a generar grupos de WhatsApp, introduciendo a los amigos de su pueblo, a los amigos del pueblo de al lado, y a raíz de estos grupos de WhatsApp es cómo se convocan las movilizaciones. Inicialmente, las movilizaciones surgen así y las movilizaciones comienzan de una manera muy potente. O sea, lo que pasó en España en 2024 seguramente no había pasado en el sector agrario español desde los años 70 con la guerra del maíz, la guerra del tomate, lo que hablaba antes, que eso surgió, eso derivó en la creación de los sindicatos agrarios. Pero al principio era totalmente desnortado, era estamos mal, no analizamos el por qué. Nadie en Aragón, porque en otros territorios sí que fueron capaces de liderar ese discurso y metiendo un discurso coherente, fueron capaces de apagar totalmente a la incursión de la extrema derecha y que las movilizaciones se hiciesen exactamente igual, que los agricultores se sintiesen respaldados y defendidos de cara a la sociedad y de cara a los políticos. Pero en nuestro territorio lo que hizo fue complicarse cada vez más. Sí que es verdad que como no tenían ninguna base, no tenían ningún discurso claro de de lo que querían conseguir, al final el recorrido es corto y esos grupos se fueron apagando. Sí que es verdad que aquí en nuestro territorio se ha creado una asociación, pero vamos, el recorrido creo que es corto, aunque ahora comentan un matiz que ahora ha vuelto a resurgir un poco, pero ahí nos quedamos. Sí que es verdad que, que tuvieron un punto aquí en las últimas elecciones, el PP necesitó de la ayuda de la ultraderecha de Vox para gobernar y Vox lo que le exigió y no solo en Aragón, sino en otros territorios, lo que le exigió al PP era eh, tener el liderazgo en todas esas comisiones, en todos esos, para que me podáis entender, ministerios de agricultura. Sí que es verdad que, por ejemplo, en Aragón, la composición de la Consejería de Agricultura que pusieron, el recorrido fue muy corto, tuvieron que cambiar porque al final las cosas no funcionaban porque no tenían ni ellos mismos claros cuál era su estrategia para llevar sus fines a buen puerto. Al final a lo mejor era por eso, porque al final lo que ellos querían es que hubiese totalmente un descontrol y que los grandes poderes, los grandes multinacionales campasen a sus anchas. Y eso sí que es verdad que con la incursión de la ultraderecha en los gobiernos, ya no solo en, en las ramas de agricultura, se está viendo que al final el dejar campar a sus anchas a todas las multinacionales, ya sean del sector o de las tecnologías, ya sea de centros de datos, ya sea también de las renovables, a todo lo que sea generar negocio por generar una riqueza cortoplacista, se está facilitando. Eh, bueno, Aquí hemos tenido en un último momento, que ha sido al final lo que ha hecho que ahora mismo estemos en una situación de que la extrema derecha está candente todos los días en redes sociales, es que la semana pasada se suicidó un joven agricultor en un municipio cercano al mío, aquí en la provincia de Zaragoza. Eh, Ante la grave situación que es que un joven se tenga que llegar a tomar esta decisión, lo que hemos visto es que Gaitán, Alvise, bueno, son figuras de la extrema derecha que están continuamente en el panorama de las redes sociales, aprovechen esto para, para dar caña hacia el gobierno, hacia las políticas europeas, etcétera, hasta el nivel que han tenido que salir a denunciar la familia del pobre chaval. O sea, con esto qué quiero decir, que al final les vale todo. O sea, cuando podemos plantear lo peor que le puede pasar a un ser humano, ellos ahí están para intentar aprovecharlo para hacer sangre. Pues yo creo, y es una de las cosas que desde el colectivo Malas Hierbas estamos intentando ver cómo se le puede dar una solución, y es cómo apagar realmente a los que están encendiendo continuamente ese discurso de, al final es un discurso de odio hacia algo que realmente está pensando por el futuro de la colectividad de todos los ciudadanos de la Unión Europea y por ende de todo el planeta. O sea, al final yo creo que es un problema más que agrícola, y al final eh, no tenemos fuerzas como aquel que dice todos los agricultores, todos los representantes sindicales para combatir continuamente las sarta de barbaridades que se dicen. Pero si no somos capaces de contrarrestar esos discursos, no saldremos de este problema. Sé que es muy difícil, ¿eh? Estoy aquí yo, parece que es muy fácil esto, que tenemos que contrarrestar las barbaridades que se dicen, pero es un poco una reflexión para también poder generar debate. Tengo por aquí algún compañero del sindicato que también pues, nos podremos intercambiar alguna palabra desde el cariño, por supuesto. Y poco más, dejo más a las preguntas, David, para que nos puedan...
Perfecto. Pues muchas gracias, Toño. Pasamos a la ronda, pero sí me gustaría que Leonardo y Claudia nos comentasen un poco cómo veis eso, lo que os planteaba antes, en vuestro cotidiano, en vuestro entorno, en vuestros pueblos, en los bares de los pueblos, cómo está esa situación, esa sensación de ruido, de odio y de crispación, es algo que está presente, y qué herramientas hay a nivel individual más pequeño y también a nivel organizativo, desde vuestras organizaciones, colectivos, plataformas, lo que planteaba Toño ahora. ¿Qué herramientas estáis poniendo u os imagináis o qué necesitaríais para tratar de desactivar ese ruido y ese odio? Leo, por ejemplo.
Yes, thanks. I can start. So if you're talking about the today's situation, what I can say is that the situation has become very tense, right? And I can say this on a personal level, but also on a level of us as an organization. It was worse before, where we had the farmers' protests, who had this very strong. Well, we're becoming more and more taking on this right-wing discourse, and there was very much a situation there where if you do not join this, then you are against them, and there were even instances in the past where they started to call some of our colleague organizations like traitors, right? The organic farmers. They said you are traitors because you're not collaborating in the protests.
But this is because of the very strange situation in which we're in, where on the one hand we support the cause of the protests, but we also think that agriculture should be supportive of the environment as well, right? It's a different thing. So what we do is, and what I think is very important to do is that we have to stay together as movements with our close allies, right? And maybe also expand this movement, right? And this is something that we are doing, right? We are started out mostly as organization of farmers, but we also started to form networks, which we call the agroecology network, which includes also the more environmental movements, the climate, right? Even the more radical climate groups such as like Extinction Rebellion. Sometimes we collaborate with Greenpeace, but also movements of citizens and decolonial movements. We think it's very important that we stay together, especially in these times of where everything seems to be turning to the right. And I think Claudia also mentioned this, that it is important for us to show that we are really a movement for life, right? We are really a movement that of farmers also that wants to be closer to community, that wants to be in society and not separated from it. Also, I think it's important that we show that we have that we as a peasant movement, we have a solution to a lot of the crises that are going on right now, right? And it's a solution based on food sovereignty and agroecological, and it's a solution that is good for farmers and for the environment. That these things do not have to go against each other, but that they can go together. But that support from government is needed to actually move more towards this. So I think, yeah, we should be very careful not to shift our message to the right. We see a lot of parties, political parties, but also organizations, or even some farmer organizations, shifting more towards the right. Right? They stop talking about diversity. They are very silent about Palestine. I think this is quite dangerous, and it's not something what we should do. But we should try to reach more the farmers in the middle. So in the Netherlands, the farming population is very diverse, but there's a very large group that is not very much politically involved, and that can move either way. They can move towards the left or to the right. They can move more towards agroecology, and it would be important to try to involve them more, right? And as toekomstboeren, what we do is we organize these. We have these peasant to peasant gatherings, right? And this is a way for us to involve, also to invite more these farmers in the middle, right? Just to be organized gatherings where groups of farmers come together, where we talk about the common problems that we have, and from there we start building, right? And especially also important, I think, is also for us at least, and what we are doing is also to involve more the young, more conventional farmers as well, because a lot of the young farmers, even the larger ones, they don't, yeah, they are the future, and they also don't have always, they look at things differently than the, let's say, the more traditional right-wing farmer unions, right? Some of their younger members can be more open, and it's interesting to collaborate with them as well.
Muchas gracias, Leonardo. En español estoy. El trabajo de base, el trabajo cotidiano de hablar con los jóvenes, hablar con tus vecinos, hablar con la gente del territorio, planteas, Leonardo, que es algo fundamental, ¿no? Bueno, el responder al discurso de redes sociales, de polarización y de odio entre vecinos. O sea, es decir, las herramientas que hay ahora mismo es hablar con tus conocidos, con tus vecinos y con la gente que está en el campo, y eso creo que es una herramienta importante donde podemos influir, ¿no? En políticas públicas es difícil, pero sí que las organizaciones tengan una estrategia no individual de ir al bar a hablar con la gente, sino de que las organizaciones pues tengan un discurso, las organizaciones que están en el movimiento de soberanía alimentaria, en la ECBC, por ejemplo, tengan una estrategia de un discurso o de de reunir a gente que pueda estar fortaleciendo esto. Claudia, ¿vosotras cómo estáis haciendo y cómo vivís esta cotidianidad de la extrema derecha y de la polarización y del ruido? ¿Y qué estáis haciendo para trabajarlo?
Yeah, a lot of other things Leonardo said would be or put it in a very good way how it is in Germany as well. I think maybe we have even more the problem or the situation that the farmers are very, very conservative, that in some terms is a protection towards far right, especially the older, very religious traditional farmers. They are, and you can even see that in elections as well. They are not the ones who voting for the AfD. They are sort of they're conservative, but they're not far right. And you have sort of a middle part. You have to get in touch with and you have to talk to. And as I experiences it in the countryside, it's much more difficult to actually talk to people when they know where I'm from and that I'm from an ecological farm. I'm always in a certain corner, sort of, and the experience is that a lot of people are now saying things they didn't say years before. The border of what is sayable sort of move towards right, and you can you can say things in terms of or against migrants, against people from somewhere else. And for us, it's important to speak up against that and always make clear in terms of farming where we're standing next to you, but in terms of fascism or racism, we're not standing there. We're not on your side, and that's a sort of, it's a difficult situation for an organization like us, dealing with members which are at one point very, very conservative, and then on the other side are wanting us to even more move forward to ecological ideas and to left ideas as well. So we're always in between and have to figure out where's our way through. But it's, as I said, for us as an organization, it's very important that we make clear to what extent we are next to the farmers, and we're not anymore next to them when they are doing hate speech or things like that. And we had that on the demonstrations to some extent. And that was a point for us to say, no, even if some points the farmers make are the right policy points, but we're not going with them as long as they're also on topics that we can't carry at all. So yeah, it's difficult, and you have to find a way through, and you have to have a very good look where are your alliances are, and with whom it's important to stay together. And it's, you also have to have a very close look on that. You at some points you can talk to farmers organizations or interest groups who are maybe not in the whole way on your topics and on your side, but you can maybe find topics where you say at that point we have the same view on it, and we're going to try to find a way to come further there. And maybe then you get people, or it's you have to try to get them on your side and not having them being lost to the right side. Yeah.
Muchas gracias, Claudia, Leonardo. Difícil, claro. Si fuese fácil, lo habríamos resuelto ya, evidentemente. Pero las organizaciones, entendemos que las organizaciones tienen un papel importante. Me recuerdo ahora mismo de Confederación Paisán, ¿no? A nivel europeo, quizá fue una organización que tuvo una capacidad fuerte de poner un discurso contrapuesto al sector agrario más de derechas, y decir, nosotros estamos mal, pero no compartimos la respuesta, ¿no? Pero claro, eso necesita un trabajo de base y una capacidad de articulación con otros actores que es difícil de trabajar y que es lo que tenemos que construir, ¿no? Yo creo que son los grandes retos que nos estamos encontrando, y encontrar, como dice Claudia y Leonardo también de alguna manera, Otoño, esos puntos de entrada, ¿no? El cómo dialogar con la gente que es un poco distinta, pero con la que tenemos que hablar y que tendremos que avanzar juntos de alguna manera. Son los retos que tenemos en esta realidad de la extrema derecha dentro del sector agrario, porque el sector está mal y porque es fácil poner fuego en esa gasolina. Eso es muy fácil que empiece a arder porque la cosa está difícil. Lo importante es tratar de encontrar respuestas, ¿no? En el chat hay un par de cuestiones. Una es sobre la extrema derecha de Brasil y cómo están utilizando el nacionalismo, la agricultura patriótica, y la criminalización de los movimientos sociales como el MST o de la vía campesina. Y luego había una pregunta sobre las políticas de izquierdas, el apoyo social y político que tienen los planteamientos agrarios de izquierdas en diferentes países. Es decir, hay algo de izquierdas en vuestros países. No sé si alguien quiere añadir. Nos quedan 6 minutitos, no más de 10 minutos para poder cerrar, porque también la gente de interpretación tenemos el compromiso. No sé si alguien quiere intervenir de viva voz, no solo por el chat.
Yo me gustaría
Ajá.
intervenir un poquito.
Adelante, Javi.
Buenas. A ver, yo soy Javi Fatas, no me conocéis. Pertenezco a COAG y pertenezco a WAGA, que es la organización de COAG en Aragón, en el territorio de Toño Romé. Y bueno, simplemente, pues bueno, quería hacer, no sé, unas apreciaciones, no muy estructuradas, porque me ha llevado casi todo el recorrido en coche y no he podido apuntármelas bien. Primero, sí que me gustaría decir que para mí el populismo hoy en día y la extrema derecha no es lo mismo. Sí que es verdad que la extrema derecha se ha apropiado de ese populismo que hay, y además se ha apropiado de él con muchos de nuestros, incluyendo, si hace falta, muchos de nuestros mensajes más tradicionales, como la soberanía alimentaria, como tratados como el de la contra, tratados como el de Mercosur o la uberización, como decíamos antes. Se han apropiado de mensajes que en origen se unían. Este recorrido no viene del 24, no viene del 23. Este recorrido viene, como también alguno de los ponentes ha dicho, ya anterior al COVID del 19, del 20, y que se vio parado justamente por el tema del COVID. El otro día, por decir algún detalle, aquí hemos tenido unas movilizaciones, unos problemas muy serios en un pueblo de Murcia, en Torre Pacheco, con el tema de los migrantes, y para los que lideraban esas movilizaciones, incluso uno de ellos hablaba de reparto de tierras para que más gente pudiera entrar a cultivar esas tierras y no tuviera que haber tantos inmigrantes. O sea, son conceptos que hay que tener una visión, salirse un poco de nosotros mismos y verla desde fuera. También, bueno, creo que todo esto pues ya empezó en el, como digo, anterior al COVID y viene de rentabilidad en el sector agrario. Creo que eso es claro y eso es un poco lo que ha llevado a todo esto. Y también por la entrada
Excuse me.
de los nuevos.
Excuse me, hello. Can you speak a little bit more clear and closer to the microphone because the interpreters cannot hear you very well, Javi. Thank you.
Perdón, esto no se me traduce y no lo entiendo.
Habla un poquito más alto y más cerca, porfa.
Perdón, decía que todo esto viene por problemas de rentabilidad, problemas que ya teníamos antes del COVID y que ha llevado a un populismo que es el que ha aprovechado la extrema derecha, usando muchas veces incluso, pues bueno, mensajes tradicionales muy nuestros, como pueden ser la soberanía alimentaria, como pueden ser el problema de la uberización del campo, o sea, usando los tratados de libre comercio, o sea, usando temas que nosotros siempre hemos llevado en la agenda y de los que ahora se han apropiado. Viene vinculado, pues, desde luego también al crecimiento de la extrema derecha que se sabe hacer con todo este movimiento populista, con unos movimientos mucho más ágiles que los que las organizaciones tenemos, muchas veces por las propias estructuras de las organizaciones donde, pues bueno, pues todos los temas los llevamos a debate interno antes de tener una propuesta hacia el exterior. Entonces, bueno, pues tenemos que combatir contra ello, yo creo, teniendo todo esto en cuenta. Ha habido sitios donde, pero ese creo que es un debate más interno, donde Antonio decía que se ha sabido afrontar mejor o peor por parte de las organizaciones sindicales, pero creo que también ha tenido que ver en cómo se veían esas organizaciones sindicales en cada territorio. Y quiero decir, si se veían más vinculadas o más claramente vinculadas a la izquierda o no tan claramente vinculadas a la izquierda. Era un poco la exposición que yo quería hacer. Yo tengo una forma de decir...
Gracias. Sí, gracias, Javi.
Vale, perdón.
Gracias por la incorporación. Vamos justos de tiempo. Tom había pedido la palabra. No muy largo, por favor. Adelante.
Yes, thank you. I will make it short. I just wanted to make connections, particularly to what Claudia was saying in Germany, and maybe it's true in other places, in Netherlands and other places, about the Greens being sort of adjacent to the green brown, because exactly a year ago, we had 24 riots in the countryside, so small cities in the countryside of England and Northern Ireland, and physical attacks on people of color. And in response to that, we at Seeding Reparations, which is an initiative very much linked to what you're talking about today, we're thinking about how we could intervene. And we thought, actually, the agroecology movement, we need to acknowledge, in the UK at least, is structurally racist. It's white-led. It is not allowing a proper anti-racist movement to emerge because it doesn't have the moral leadership, because actually the agroecology movement and the organic movement began as overtly white supremacist movement in the 1920s and 30s. So we came up with an intervention, which I'll put in the chat, which we called Organicism and Fascism in the UK. Really what we're trying to say is to reach these farmers who are like tempted by the right, but also into agroecology. There needs to be a conversation among people racialized as whites about how they can work together to include people of color in leading their organizations, in changing them. They're almost exclusively white. The whole environmental and agroecology movement in Britain, at least, is white, and that's a problem. That's it.
Muchas gracias, Tomo. Abres un, un tema interesante y claro, el antirracismo, la interseccionalidad de los movimientos de izquierdas es algo que se está trabajando y que se trabaja en el proceso Nyéléni a nivel internacional. De hecho, en Sri Lanka nos vamos a ver en septiembre a nivel internacional. Se está construyendo un comunicado político que Oljay y Madina podrán contar mejor en otro momento, no es ahora. Pero sí, esa necesidad de articular el antirracismo, el carácter de clase y, por supuesto, también el feminismo. Aprovecho, no lo tenía pensado, pero mira, justo está aquí Emma Siliprandi, entonces esta tarde hay también otro webinario de los feminismos y el avance de la extrema derecha a nivel internacional, de la Marcha Mundial de las Mujeres. Es más, si quieres presentar en un minuto y con esto casi cerraríamos porque es un debate relevante, importante y que necesitamos trabajar el cómo taponar o cómo combatir o cómo ampliar, más que combatir, cómo ampliar nuestras composiciones, nuestros grupos sociales desde una mirada de agroecología, de feminismo, de antirracismo y con un carácter de clase evidentemente frente a los de arriba y frente a las políticas neoliberales que machacan a las personas y al medio ambiente. Necesitamos articulaciones distintas, ¿no? Así que por mi parte, antes de dejar que Emma presente y que nos despidan Oljay o Madina, simplemente daros las gracias a todo el mundo, un debate súper interesante, gracias por las aportaciones y nos vemos por ahí. Así que Emma, un 30 segundos y Oljay nos despide, o Madina.
Vale, gracias David. No, esta es una iniciativa de Ama Agua, que es esta alianza de mujeres por la agroecología que se creó hace 10 años en Latinoamérica y en el mundo español también, y que vino por la necesidad de discutir eso, que muchos movimientos jóvenes hoy en la agroecología, aunque sean, digamos, dentro del espectro de izquierda, tiene mucha dificultad para entender y para aceptar las postulaciones feministas. Entonces, ¿cómo? Y eso en función de todo un discurso de la ultraderecha que va muy fuerte contra los derechos de las mujeres, contra los derechos de las personas de la diversidad sexual, etc. Por eso vamos a hacer una discusión sobre eso. ¿Necesitamos más feminismos o menos feminismos en este momento de ataque a los derechos de las personas diversas? Voy a poner en el chat también el enlace para la discusión de esta tarde. Gracias.
Más feminismo, Emma. Oljay, Madina.
Thank you very much for all the speakers and David for organizing this webinar. I just want to end this by saying that Nyéléni Global Forum is going to be held in Sri Lanka on the 5th of September, from 5th of September to 13th September. And this is not only an event, it is actually 2 years, 3 years, it's an event. It's a result of a long process of working together. So it is kind of a celebration, bringing together. So we are going to bring together representatives from social and popular organizations and movements, and not only the social movements around food sovereignty, but also social and solidarity economy, the health movement, the feminist movement, the climate justice movement. We all are going to come together with the traditional food sovereignty movements like peasants, fishers, pastoralists, consumers around food sovereignty. And we will we will build joint proposals and actions to address the polycrisis confronting humanity today. And we would like to implement our proposals to transform the social, political, economic, and environmental trajectory of the planet. and its peoples for sure. So I am so happy to have this webinar as well, to be part of the discussions that we are going to bring from Europe and Central Asia region to Nyéléni Global Forum. So all those discussions, which this is the 6th one, July edition, is going to also bring all the discussions to Sri Lanka from our regional perspective. I would like to thank you all and say goodbye, happy summer, and wish all the best for all the people in the world. And I wish peace and joy. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you for our interpreters, especially Carla, who has done quite a lot because of the technical issues of our second interpreter. She has done a lot, so a big clap for her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Por cierto, la grabación estará colgada en la